About their daddies. That's the type of damage make you grow into a savage. Some people slave to man and they love it more than family. The most I show mercy. I was about to murder 7-0 times 7. Mark 11:26. Remember your trespasses. I can't live loud when you cross down with man enough to kill you. It's all good. I forgive you. Love from a distance, cut them off, give the sentence. I forgive them. I done lost some things I ain't proud of myself, man. I need forgiveness. Without the fruits of the mouth, I ain't able to release it. I forgive them. God forgive them. Hey, man. Holding that grudge, you just get them power over you. As quick as you release it, your peace return. You know what I'm saying? Handle this situation and move forward, man. The Most High said, don't let the sun go down on your wrath. When you forgive them, you ain't got to deal with them long-handled spoon and keep pushing. The juice. Holy means to be separated or set apart. Since you came into the truth, your whole family turned their back. Everywhere you spin, you're being verbally attacked. Cut this, deal with that, like your eyes all black. And you feel me right now, cause what I'm saying all facts. Pray they see the light, it might not be that time yet. Even as an adolescent, had a different mindset. Never cared for the club, you rather go relax. Unplug from the matrix, nature's on the text. You ain't into all the trends like your friends. You gon' do your own thing, stay in your own lane. You gon' fly your own plane. That's the trait of a leader. Don't let them tell you different. Captain of the ship, responsible for all decisions. Can you handle that? Granted down your heart, melted tears dripping like it's candle wax. All your troubles meant to shape you and mold you. In the Most High's army, you enlisted as a soldier. Ain't a better place. Lawyers, friends with the judge know how these devils play. Every show on television show you something gay. Heart of gold, silver line seeker. Your kind hard to find. You that needle in a stack of hay. Reprobates hate the light. Wanna break the lamp. That thinking NBA and NFL. You thinking tanks and concentration camps. Microchips, John 7:38. You dispensing since you came into the truth. Your friends ain't your friends no more. And your kin ain't your kin no more. Since you came into the truth. Family became distant. It's like everything different since you came into the truth. Your friends ain't your friends no more. And your kin ain't your kin no more. Since you came into the truth. You forced to be alone, but it only makes you stronger. See the truth, it'll isolate you. So strong it'll make those you known to like you hate you. You understand this ain't a religion, this your nation. You Israelite by nature. Your bloodline traces back to Jacob. Your spot was the spot they all chillin' ate. Now they don't even call your phone to check if you're straight. But it's a blessing, the unveiling of the real and fake. Help you put two and two to let you know who is who. Thought he'd never leave your side. Matthew chapter 10, verse 35 through 39. I feel your pain, you need consoling. One over family, two over city. You were chosen. Just walk in peaches and cream. Tulips or roses. You lean the fruit souls of your household. Imagine Moses. Ain't no sense in looking back. Keep the commandments in the faith until the casket. Since you came into the truth. Your friends ain't your friends no more. And your kin ain't your kin no more. Since you came into the truth. Family became distant. It's like everything different since you came into the truth. Your friends ain't your friends no more. And your kin ain't your kin no more. Since you came into the truth. You forced to be alone. But it only makes you stronger. All right. Shalom to the brethren.
Shalom, Akeem, Mishpachah.
What up with everybody else? You know, you stragglers. Come on in.
Water's warm. You know, come on in. We salute you here from the house of B. Lou. Man is in attendance.
Man. What's up, man?
Even got wifey in the background over there listening in. Hallelujah.
Yeah.
What'd you say, up?
Yeah, I'm like I said, I went outside, man. I'm chilling under some ice, man. I'm in my tank top, so I ain't gonna be on the.
All right. You got your flesh out. We understand. You're trying to be modest. I get it. Hallelujah. Yeah, man. This is Mark 67 podcast where we address the tough issues, you know, other people might not want to touch on. We reading this Josephus. Me and my brother has stated, you know, it's other people saying it. We ain't the only ones, you know. Like the Most High said, man, I got some thousand other ones over here. They putting in work too. Just because you don't know about them don't mean they ain't doing it.
That's right.
You know, we've been stating that a lot of the prophecies and things that we looking for, we still looking for them because we don't have a proper understanding of history and what's happened, and we really don't understand all the things that happened with the fall of Jerusalem, however you want to say it, you know. And me and my brother, having read parts of Josephus, point these things out, but a lot of people, without a point of reference, without going in and reading it themselves, they probably think we're talking crazy. So we're going in to read Josephus for you. And if you just ain't got the time to open up the book, you got time to check on YouTube and just hit play. So that's what we got for you. We've already discovered that at some point there was a copy built of Jerusalem, including a copy of the temple. It's a place called Heliopolis. Ain't that right, up?
Heliopolis? Yeah, that sounds
Heliopolis. We don't know what happened to this place. We don't know if it's been destroyed or if it's still functioning. But we do know there is a copy. We do know that the sacrifices in the temple was stopped for 3.5 years by the Greeks. It's just a lot of information, man, and you know, we'll just keep going. It's early on yet because a lot of the first video was about outlaying, you know, how bad it was. It was a summary of Josephus saying what happened with the fall of Jerusalem was the worst. It was the worst there had ever been.
Mm-hmm.
And more than likely, the worst there ever will.
It will be. That's right.
Same thing. What people are looking for, called this Jacob's trouble. Okay, and we want to bring to the forefront that just overlooking the fall of Jerusalem is kind of blaspheming Yah, because what Yah did to Jerusalem, He had it in His heart to do. Mm-hmm. And He said He'd do it, and He said it would be so catastrophic, it'd be so bad that you'd never see nothing else like it. But here we are today looking for something else worse than that.
Bring it out.
You know, and like I said, we address the tough issues. A lot of people are not going to tell you that because it's seen as blasphemous to go against a lot of these doctrines. But these doctrines don't stand up to history, man. Mm-hmm. How are people looking for Jacob's trouble when you consider all the things that's happened to our people? How can you say that that it ain't started yet?
That's right. Speak to them out.
Now it's gonna get bad. You think it's been bad. Now it's gonna really get bad. Man, come on, man. You got too much. You're giving the heathen too much credit. You're not giving Yah credit.
Hallelujah.
Do you understand what it means for a nation of people not to know who they are or where they come from? You ain't got no understanding. That was drastic, man. It's a grievous wound that y'all did to us.
That's right.
We think it all started with slavery. And then you want to join in with with all these other people in the woods and with the running around with the drawers on and sticks and painted faces and all that ain't our people, man. That's them Canaanites and all that, man. We don't move like that. We're civilized people. We always had quote unquote swag. We always been clean.
Hallelujah.
Learn about the priests and all that, man. Them some of the cleanest brothers you ever seen in your life. Running around in linen and gold and jewels all on their chest and all that. Ain't no damn tree huggers. I gotta stop it, man. But it's a reason why we believe in that. For one, the heathen has told us. It said the nations are confederate against us. They have combined to say, let us make them forget the name of Yahshua. Let's remove it from the earth. Mm-hmm. And to a large extent, they have. But anyway, we here to right wrongs and to bring out what is not widely understood. Because there's people that know this. But you think they having podcasts to tell you about it? No. You know why? Because you ain't going to like it. You ain't going to want to hear it. You're going to tell them gone somewhere. Me and my brother don't care if you tell us gone. We'll be all right. We sleep better knowing we told you.
Right. Hallelujah.
Hallelujah. At least somebody doing it. All right. Well, our prayers on here, man. We get started. Hallelujah.
Hallelujah. Baruch atah Yahweh. Thank you, Father Yahweh, for waking us up this Bokar. We thank you, Father Yahweh, for all that you have done. We thank you for giving us your knowledge, understanding, Father Yahweh. We thank you for giving us eyes and ears to hear your word and to be attentive to the things that you have allowed us to recognize. And as we read and study these things that you made available for us to see, so we can know what had happened to us and know where we are and know where we're going. We thank you, Father Yahweh. We ask you that you allow your will and your desire be done in us here on this arrest as it is in you, in Shamayim, Father Yahweh. To you belong the power, the kabul, and the kingdom forever, Father Yahweh. Let your will be done by your great rule, that people may hear the words of edification, that they may see what they have not seen and hear what they have not heard, and that they may recognize it as truth, because it is truth that comes from you, Father Yahweh. As you enable us to speak these things and point out things that you would have us to point out, Father Yahweh, speaking those things which you would have us to speak. In Yahshua Mashiach's name we thank you, Father Yahweh. So be it, and let your will be done. So be it. Hallelujah. Hallelujah.
Hallelujah. Hallelujah. And too, man, when we get into it, when it talks about Jerusalem, when it fell and the army finally getting inside the walls and killing people, you're going to find out that about 1/3 of the people that were there. So, it's just a lot of stuff, man, that people don't know. Man, you have to be, your daddy's talking. You have to be a little quiet, okay? You want to be quiet? You want to get down? What do you want to do?
I ain't saying that. Right now. Nephew. Yeah.
All right, we are in chapter 7, people. If you missed everything else, go back and check out our video. You can find us on Yah's Word on the Street. I'm sorry. You can find us on the Life of an Israelite page on Facebook and the Life of an Israelite YouTube channel. We are there. So, with a plethora of other videos and other information. So, we're in chapter 7. At this treatment, Pompey was up top. How Pompey and the city of Jerusalem delivered up to him, but took the temple by force. How he went into the Kodash of Kodashim, holiest of holy, as also what were his other exploits in Judea. At this treatment, Pompey was very angry and took Aristobulus into custody. And when he was to come to the city, he looked about where he might make his attack. For he saw the walls were so firm that it would be hard to overcome them, and that the valley before the walls was terrible, and that the temple, which was within the valley, was itself encompassed with a very strong wall, insomuch that if the city were taken, the temple would be a second place of refuge for the enemy to retire to. This is something too that we have to understand is that, our people, if left alone, man, can do great, great and magnificent things. What Jerusalem was, the walls around it, the temple built, was the greatest architectural productions anywhere ever. Everybody want to talk about the pyramids. Everybody want to talk about the Mayans and all these old other people that had stuff or whatever, and it's still around and all this. Okay, Jerusalem was 100 times better than all that stuff. And what you're going to find out is that the fact that it was able to be destroyed took an act of Yah.
That's right.
The heathens even say that. They say, ain't no way we did this ourselves. It took the Most High to do this.
That's right.
That's why these people laughed at Hamashiach, man, when he said it was going to be destroyed. They're like, you crazy? This is Jerusalem. This is the temple. Our whole Torah built upon this setup. You mean it's going to be gone? Because a new temple had come. A greater promise had came. They didn't understand it. We understand it today, Torah. Now, as B was long in deliberating about this matter, a sedition arose among the people within the city. Aristobulus's party being willing to fight and to set their king at liberty, while the party of Hyrcanus were for opening the gates to Pompey and the dread people were in occasion these last to be a very numerous party. They took upon the excellent order the Roman soldiers were in.
When they looked upon
the excellent order the Roman soldiers were in, Aristobulus's party was worsted and retired into the temple and cut off the communication between the temple and the city by breaking down the bridge that joined them together, and prepared to make an opposition to the utmost. But as the others had received the Romans into the city and had delivered up the palace to him, Pompey sent Piso. So, hold on, they let him into Jerusalem and they closed off the temple.
Yeah, they did. They brought him. It seemed like they brought him in and delivered up the palace to him. I said, okay, Elshavi's party was worsted and retired into the temple and cut off the communication between the temple and the city by breaking down the bridge that joined them together and prepared to make an opposition to the utmost. But as the others had received the Romans into the city, the others, so the people are the Romans, the people,
because I'm guessing Aristobulus is a group of soldiers. He's a general with some soldiers who said, okay, we going to lock down in the temple, whereas the armies around it in the city. I guess let's keep reading. It might explain itself. Pompey sent Piso, one of his great officers, into that palace with an army, who distributed a garrison about the city, because he could not persuade any one of those that had fled to the temple to come to terms of accommodation. He then disposed all things that were round about them so as might favor their attacks, as having Hyrcanus's party very ready to afford them both counsel and assistance. But Pompey himself filled up the ditch that was oiled the north side of the temple, and the entire valley also, the army itself being obliged to carry the materials for that purpose. And indeed was a hard thing to fill up that valley by reason of its immense depth, especially as the Jews used all the means possible to repel them from their superior situation. Nor had the Romans succeeded in their endeavors. Had not Pompey taken notice of the 7 days on which the Jews abstained from all sorts of work on a religious account and raised his bank. This would be not tabernacles, but unleavened bread.
It could be even unleavened bread, or it could be sukkah, because you spend 7 days in the sukkah as well. You know what I mean? On the 8th day, you have a set apart convocation, and then offer made by fire and come together, and you know what I mean. But maybe
they don't work for 7 days. I thought it was some allowances in there for that, but
right. I mean, well,
it could be wrong. It could be wrong.
Right, because on 11 bread, they don't. I mean, they work even on 11 bread. It's on the first and the last days, no work. On even on sukkahs, on the first and the last day.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. So
I understand it,
yeah.
But we could have, I mean, I don't know.
They said had not Pompey taken notice of the 7 days on which the Jews abstained from all sorts of work on a religious account for 7 days. Okay.
And raised his bank, but restrained his soldiers from fighting on those days. See, even the heathen, I think they didn't, they knew the rules and knew that Yah be with us. So they made an effort not to offend Yah, I think, in a lot of ways, man. Because why else? Okay, if at these 7 days, we not fighting. We chill. You gonna chill too?
Especially if you're trying to attack and take over a thing. But see, that's the whole I think that's the whole magnificence of the whole matter, is that Yah was the one that was bringing them against the people. You get what I'm saying?
That's what I'm saying. So that's more reason for them to kind of try to make sure that they do right. I don't know. It's
I hear you,
but let's see. But restrained his soldiers from fighting on those days. For the Jews only acted defensively on Sabbath days. But as soon as Pompey had filled up the valley, he erected high towers upon the bank and brought those engines which they had fetched from Tyre near to the wall and tried to batter it down. And the slingers of stone beat off those that stood above them and drove them away. But the towers on this side of the city made very great resistance and were indeed extraordinary, both for largeness and magnificence. So we had some snipers up on top of the wall.
Yeah, with the slingers of stone. Yeah.
Ping, ping.
Right. Banging them with them stones.
Banging them, boy. Wow. Now here it was that upon the many hardships which the Romans underwent, Pompey could not but admire not only at the other instances of the Jews' fortitude, but especially that they did not at all intermit their religious services, even when they were encompassed with darts on all sides. For as if the city were in full peace, their daily sacrifices and purifications and every branch of their religious worship was still performed to Yah with the utmost exactness. So even in war, they stop. Man, it's something to be said, man, about the fact of the zealousness of our people. Even in wickedness, right? Because apparently they to the point that Yah's bringing judgment against them, but yet they still do this stuff. Even to this day, it's people that's zealous for Shabbat, but wicked as hell. When it's over, when the sun go down, it's back to the folly. So we have to make sure to be of a pure heart and not just doing stuff to be doing it,
right, going through the motions and all that.
Because they thought that doing what they was doing was going to save them in some kind of way. They got into ceremonialism,
right?
And that's something to be looked at, man, and analyzed, man.
And then we also
they are keeping the law, keeping it against death. They keeping it.
I was gonna say also, I let me add to this as well, man. You got to also remember too, even when after Mashiach came, that they was also instituting a lot of man-made traditions that they was following as well. as if it was the commandments of the Most High Yah. You get what I'm saying?
Right.
Because the whole purpose of this destruction that was coming upon them is because they refused to take heed to Yah's word, which we know it came in the form of Yahushua HaMashiach, right? To teach them the right way according to the teachings that Yah has given. But they didn't want that. They was following the traditions of man still. You get what I'm saying? And that's why a lot of this stuff happened, because if they was loyal to the commandments, if they reverenced the Most High Yah and kept all his commandments the way that Yah said it, then it wouldn't have been no destruction upon them like that. So obviously they must have been doing something or doing things, whatever they may have been, that wasn't in line with the reverence of the Most High Yah and keeping of his commandments. You know what I mean? Even though they still follow through with this, and this is what they're saying, like they were still following these religious practices or services and stuff like that, even in the midst of war, are being attacked, are being, being surrounded. They still kept it going. They had that, what you call it? What's that word? When you
Ceremony.
yes, not ceremonial, that too, but when you stay diligent in what you're doing, regardless, steadfast. They had a steadfastness in what they were steadfast in what they was doing. No, you can't knock that on them. I mean, you got to give them credit on that. At least they were steadfast in the midst of war, still doing whatever they was doing. Their religious practices, ceremonial stuff. You know what I mean?
They had a zealousness, but not according to knowledge.
Not according to knowledge. Yeah.
Nor indeed when the temple was actually taken, and they were every day slain about the altar, did they leave off the instances of their divine worship that were appointed by their law. So while the Romans then came in the temple, instead of fighting back, they prayed, getting slain. It's a prophecy about that says, it'll be blood throughout the altar and all that. So, that's Yah was true to his word, man.
Always.
For it was in the 3rd month of the siege before the Romans could even with great difficulty overthrow one of the towers and get into the temple. Now he that first of all ventured to get over the wall was Faustus Cornelius, the son of Scylla. And next after him were 2 centurions, Furius and Fabius. And every one of these was followed by a cohort of his own, who encompassed the Jews on all sides and slew them, compassed about with a greater cloud of enemies, and slew them. Some of them as they were running for shelter to the temple, and others they for a while fought in their own defense. And now did many of the priests, even when they saw their enemies assailing them with swords in their hands without any disturbance, go on with their divine worship, and were slain while they were offering their drink offerings and burning their incense, as preferring the duties about their worship to Yah before their own preservation. Wow, man. People would not listen. There's a religious mind we got today that think this kind of thing is just would never happen. The Yah's destruction. What just happened right here, a shut a Christian mouth. Because it's more than just doing things. They in there praising and worshiping. It's bigger than that. There is an action. There is a lifestyle that got to be led. There is a wholeness.
That's right.
That need to be had. They did all this in the temple, but went home and was tyrants and liars and whoremongers and deceivers and all manner of wicked things. We need to really observe ourselves and really look within ourselves, because we see a lot of us, we don't do this stuff. We don't do no drink offerings and incense and all this stuff. But all this stuff is required. But there's a lifestyle that comes before that ought to make this be in your heart. Now, there's also something that say, okay, I'm going to do this just to kind of cover my tracks. But y'all know what you're doing throughout the week.
Right.
You know exactly what you're doing throughout the week.
Yes, sir.
You know, so man, pay attention. Pay attention, my people. For real. The greatest part of them were slain by their own countrymen. See, this is too where we have to check ourselves today. While their enemies was coming against them, us, we was fighting each other. There was a war going on in Jerusalem while there was a war coming to it.
Wow. War within, war without.
War within, war without. Same people. We could read this story and say, that's crazy. That's, man, I would never. But here you are. You don't want to talk to your brother. You don't want to talk to your sister. Y'all beefing. Not about somebody trying to kill your kids, you and pillage you, you know, but about belief systems. You believe this, I believe that. You know what I'm saying? And that's what happened with this war inside Jerusalem. The greatest part of them were slain by their own countrymen of the adverse faction. That means it was two parties. And an innumerable multitude threw themselves down precipices. People committed suicide. Nay, some there were who were so distracted among the insuperable difficulties they were under that they set fire to the buildings that were near to the wall and were burnt together with them.
Wow.
Now, mind you, while we fighting each other, while the Romans are attacking us, we starving. Because before the Romans got into the city, they cut off everything in the city. No water, no food, nothing coming in, nothing going out.
That's right. That's right. So is. That right there is going to be linked up with what we about to get into and read, and what I just talked. That's all in Leviticus 26. The punishments and stuff that the Most High was going to bring because they refused to take heed and return to reverencing Him and keeping all His commands according to how He commanded it. And when you read this and you see this, and you can make that connection with Leviticus 26 or Yachri 26, in those judgments that was given, you'll see that's the reason why they was eating their children, because of the siege that was happening around them. They couldn't get out and couldn't come in, so food was gone. You gonna live? What you gonna do? And they did exactly what Yahweh said was gonna happen. Exactly. Well, go ahead. I just wanted to point that out so they can make that comparison with Leviticus 26 on that. Man.
Now, of the Jews were slain 12,000, but of the Romans, very few were slain, but a greater number was wounded. But there was nothing that affected the nation so much as in the calamities they were then under, as that their Kodesh place, which had been hitherto seen by none.
Nobody, no strangers outside seen it, only those that it was commanded for them to see. The Kohen Haggadah and the people, not no outside of no strangers.
And too, for all these people, there's a doctrine, that says that the Gentiles become even with the birthright, right? Now, maybe in the eternal kingdom, everybody's equal, but in the 1,000-year reign and all that, when we finally get back on top, ain't no evenness to it, man, because it's like this. The Kodesh of Kodesh, the holiest of holies, only certain men of Yasharal could even get in there.
Right.
The priest, the high priest, and only certain of them. So it's like, even within that, it's a hierarchy system.
Mm-hmm.
So how is it that somebody who ain't a part of the bloodline promise
Mm-hmm.
could become equal with the bloodline. I just don't get it. You know, I could be wrong about it, but it's just like there's always a hierarchy.
Yeah, let me
go ahead.
No, I was gonna say I was just gonna agree with you on that and say, man, you ain't seeing that wrong. Listen, even Moshe was the builder of the temple when he was in the wilderness, and even he couldn't even go in there when it was time for when everything was up and running. Only Aaron can go in, and Aaron's sons. Moshe couldn't even go in. So, and that's how it was done. And then we see even in the millennium, it's gonna be an outer court. And it's a court for the strangers, and it's a court for the regular people, and then it's gonna be an inner, the most could die. So it's always been an order. It's gonna be an order. You know what I mean? Of how this thing going ran. Y'all willing, as y'all permits, we can bring those scripts out to prove that fact. At a later time, as y'all see fit. You know what I mean? So that's it.
People have to just accept their position, man, and just be expert in their position. Quit trying to go higher than you need to go, or even bringing yourself lower than you ought to be.
That's right.
Just dwell in your position, man.
That's it.
I think Hamashiach said or something. You need to stop taking on matters much too weighty for you. But yeah, let's continue. 6. But there was nothing that affected the nation so much as the calamities where they were then under, as that their Kodesh place, which had been hitherto seen by none, should be laid open to strangers. For Pompey and those that were about him went into the temple itself. Man, I didn't realize, but it's just getting late. Whether it was not lawful for any to enter but the high priest, and saw what was reposited therein, the candlestick with its lamps, and the table, and the pouring vessels, and the censers, all made entirely of gold, as also a great quantity of spices heaped together with 2,000 talents of sacred money. Yet did not he touch that money, nor anything else that was there reposited, but he commanded the ministers about the temple that very next day after he had taken it to cleanse it and to perform their accustomed sacrifices. Moreover, he made Hyrcanus high priest, as one that not only in other respects showed great alacrity on his side during the siege, but as he had been the means of hindering the multitude that was in the country from fighting for Aristobulus. So I guess Hyrcanus and Aristobulus were the heads of the two factions, I guess.
I thought Aristobulus and Hyrcanus was of the Roman. No. I'm staying correct. Let me see.
That's the Aldine.
Hyrcanus is the high priest. Yeah, you're right. Yeah. So
Pompey came in. Hold on, for Pompey. Moreover, he made. So Pompey ended up making Hyrcanus high priest. Okay. But he has been means of hindering the multitude that was in the country from fighting for Aristobulus, which they were otherwise very ready to have done, by which means he acted the part of a good general and reconciled the people to him more by benevolence than by error. Now, among the captives, it's a capital C for some reason, Aristobulus' father-in-law was taken, who was also his uncle. So those that were the most guilty, he punished with decollation. I don't know what that means.
Decollation. What is that? Is that D-E-C-O-L-L-A-T-I-O-N? Is that what it is? L-A-T-I-O-N?
It's L-O-N, but it's probably I-O-N. Probably I-O-N. Decollation. But rewarded Faustus and those with him that had fought so bravely with esteemed presence, and laid a tribute upon the country and upon Jerusalem itself. He also took away from the nation all those cities that they had formerly taken and that belonged to Celesyria, and made them subject to him that was at that time appointed to be the Roman president there, and reduced Judea within its proper bounds. He also rebuilt Gadara that had been demolished by the Jews in order to gratify one Demetrius, who was of Gadara, and one of his own freed men. He also made other cities free from their dominion that lay in the midst of the country, such, I mean, as they had not been demolished before time. Hippos and Scythopolis, as also Pella and Samaria and Marissa, and besides these, Ashad and Jamnia and Arathusa. And in like manner dealt he with the maritime cities, Gaza and Joppa and Dora, and which was anciently called Stratos Tower, but was afterward rebuilt with the most magnificent edifices, and had its name changed to Caesarea by King Herod, all which he restored to their own citizens, and put them under the province of Syria, which province together with Judea. You know what I'm thinking about, man? This ain't the final fall yet. I think this is the Romans taking over from the Greeks.
And the countries of Egypt and Israel. Are you sure?
I'm thinking, unless he's like skipping time frames, because he's speaking of Herod as if Herod ain't already died. He spoke of Herod in the future tense.
I thought he was talking about, like, somebody was put in a position by Herod at the time or whatever, and this one right here is like and his name's changed to Caesarea by King, and just telling that the name, whatever, that this place, what is it, Stratos Tower?
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, it was changed to Caesarea by King Herod, just letting him know who did it, who made the change. Making the name, telling his name that he's the one that changed the name from that current name. I mean, from that previous name to the current name, which is Caesarea.
And then too, like, I'm not hearing the names of the people that actually took Jerusalem. I'm not hearing, what's old boy name? Titus.
Titus, yeah, I know.
Vespasian.
Uh-huh.
I'm not hearing them.
Right.
So I'm thinking this might be when the Romans kind of took reign over the Greeks, because Jerusalem was a part of that. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, I don't know. I could be wrong.
Let's continue to read. Yeah, we might get into it and see.
All which he restored to their own citizens, and put them under the province of Syria, which province together with Judea and the countries as far as Egypt and Euphrates, he committed to Scaurus as their governor, and gave him 2 legions to support him, while he made all the haste he could himself to go to Cilicia in his way to Rome, having Aristobulus and his children along with him as his captives. They were 2 daughters and 2 sons, the one of which sons, Alexander, ran away as he was going, but the younger Antigonus with his sisters were carried to Rome. All right, hit this chapter 8 for me.
All right, chapter 8. Alexander, the son of Aristobulus, who ran away from Pompey, makes an expedition against Hyrcanus, but being overcome by Gabinus, he delivered up the fortresses to him. After this, Aristobulus escaped from Rome and gathered an army together, but being beaten by the Romans, he is brought back to Rome with other things relating to Gabinus, Crassus,
Crisis, and Cassius. Right. One, it says, in the meantime, is that serious? How you say that? Serious?
In the
Scarius? Is
mean,
that a C?
Scaurus.
Oh, Scaurus, that's a C. Okay. Scaurus made an expedition into Arabia, but was stopped by the difficulty of the places about Petria. However, he laid waste the country about Pila, though even there he was under great hardship, for his army was afflicted with famine in order to supply which want hurricane. Let me get this right. Hold on. Hyrcanus afforded him some assistance and sent him provident provisions by the means of Antipas. Can you kind of make this more clearer in a way, like make it a little bigger where I can see and read? There we go. Yeah. No, go back to the other one. Okay. Yeah.
Oh, that's 10. Hold on. How we get to 10? Is that 10?
All right. Chapter 8. Okay.
In order.
Okay. In order to supply which want, Hyrcanus afforded him some assistance and sent him provisions by means of Antipater, who Scarius went to Aretas as one well acquainted with him to induce him to pay him money to buy his peace. The king of Arabia complied with the proposal and gave him their 100 talents, upon which Scarius drew his army out of Arabia. But as for Alexander, the son of Aristobulus, who ran away from Pompey, in some time he got a considerable band of men together and lay heavy upon Hyrcanus and overran Judea and was likely to overturn him quickly. And indeed he had come to Jerusalem and had ventured to rebuild its wall that was thrown down by Pompey, had not Gabinius, who was sent as successor to Scarius into Syria, showed his bravery, as in many other points, so in making an expedition against Alexander, who, as he was afraid that he would attack him, so he got together a large army composed of 10,000 armed footmen and 1,500 footmen. He also built walls about proper places, Alexandrium and Hyrcanium and Machaerus, that lay upon the mountains of Arabia. However, Gabinius sent before him Marcus Antonius and followed himself with his whole army. But for the select body of soldiers that were about I keep messing up on that word. Antipater, how you say that? Antipater, and another body of Jews under the command of Malchus and Pitholius. Those joined to themselves to those captains that were about Marcus Antonius and met Alexander, to which body came Albinus, Oabinus. I'll be massacring these names, man. Oabinus, Obinius with his main army soon afterward. And as Alexander was not able to sustain the charge of the enemy's forces, now they were joined, he retired. But when he was coming,
what's crazy too, though? I don't think, man. I don't think these are names, man. These some old Greco, but you know what though? They could have been Hellenized though.
Right.
Their parents could have been kind of Hellenized with these names because these don't sound like, Yeshayahu and Yah. You know what I'm saying? I don't get that from these names.
Yeah, Japhet didn't spread it. He didn't enlarge and spread that Hellenistic teaching. To be honest, he did. and it's doing it. That's that Hellenized that, yeah. So there may have been, man. So these must be these are some of our people, huh? Yeah. With his main army soon afterward, and so Alexander was not able to sustain the charges of the enemy's forces. Now they were joined. He retired. But when he was come near to Jerusalem, he was forced to fight and lost 6,000 men in the battle, 3,000 of which fell down dead, and 3,000 were taken alive. So he fled with the remainder to Alexandria. Now, when Gabinius was come to Alexandria, because he found a great many there encamped, he tried by promising them pardon for the former offenses to induce them to come over to him before it came to a fight. But when they would hearken to no terms of accommodation. He slew a great number of them and shut up the great number of them in the citadel. Now Marcus Antonius, their leader, signalized himself in this battle, who, as he also showed great courage, so did he never show it so much as now. But Gabinius, leaving forces to take the citadel, went away himself and settled the city that had not been demolished, and rebuilt those that had been destroyed. Accordingly, upon his injunctions, the following cities was restored: Scythopolis. Scythopolis. How you say that out? Scythopolis. How you say it? Man, I ain't good with these little Latin Greek words. What's it? Scythopolis?
Where at?
Scythopolis. Right here to see. Right after restored.
Oh, it's right here.
Huh?
Scythopolis
and Samaria, and Anthedon, and Apollonia. Man, come on now. Apollonia.
Apollonia.
Right? Apollonia, and Jamina, and Raphia, right? And Mauricia, and Adoris, and Gamaliel, and Aja, and many others, while a great number of men readily ran to each of them and became their inhabitants. When Gabinius had taken care of these cities, he returned to Alexandria and pressed on the siege. So when Alexander despaired of ever obtaining the government, he sent ambassadors to him and prayed him to forgive what he had offended him in, and gave up to him the remaining fortresses, Hyrcanium and Marcius, as he put Alexandria into his hands afterwards. All which Gabinius demolished at the Persians, at the persuasion, of Alexandria's mother. To my Persians, at the persuasions of Alexandria's mother, that they might not be receptacles of men in the second war. She was now there in order to mollify Gabinius, out of her concern for her relations there that were captives at Rome, which were her husband and her other children. After this, Gabinius brought Hyrcanus to Jerusalem and committed the care of the temple to him, but ordained the other political government to be by an aristocracy.
Yep.
He also parted the whole nation into 5 conventions, assigning one portion to Jerusalem, another to Gadara, that another should belong to Amathias, and 4th to Jericho, and to the 5th division was allotted Sepphoris, a city of Galilee. So the people were glad to be thus freed from monarchical government, and were governed for the future by all aristocracy.
Where you at?
I'm at the end. I'm about to start at 6. I'm at the end. Yeah. Yet did Aristobulus afford another foundation for new. All right. Yet did Aristobulus afford another foundation for new disturbances. He fled away from Rome and got together again many of the Jews that were desirous of a change, such as had been born an affection to him of old. And when he had taken Alexandrium in the first place, he attempted to build a wall about it. But as soon as Gabarius had sent an army against him under Caesarea, and Antonius and Servilius, he was aware of it and retreated to Marcius, Machius.
Yeah, that's it.
And as for the unprofitable multitude, he dismissed them and only marched on with those who were armed, being to the number of 8,000, among whom was Pythulius, who had been the lieutenant at Jerusalem, but deserted to Aristobulus with 1,000 of his men. So the Romans followed him, and when it came to a battle, Aristobulus' party for a long time fought courageously, but at length they were overborne by the Romans, and of them 5,000 fell down dead, and about 2,000 fled to a certain little hill. But the 1,000 that remained with Aristobulus broke through the Roman army and marched together to Marcius. And when the king had lodged the first night upon its ruins, he was in hopes of raising another army. If the war would be, excuse me, hold on, move that arrow. If the war would, But what? But cease. Oh, if the war would but cease a while, accordingly he fortified that stronghold, though it was done after a poor manner. But the Romans falling upon him, he resisted even beyond his abilities for 2 days, and then was taken. So okay, falling upon him, he resisted even beyond his abilities for 2 days, and then was taken. Okay, he resisted for 2 days, and then he was taken and brought a prisoner to Gabanus with Antagonus, his son, who had fled away together with him from Rome. And from Gabanius he was carried to Rome again, wherefore the Senate put him under confinement, but returned his children back to Judea, because Gabanius informed them by letters that he had promised Aristobulus' mother to do so, for her delivering the fortresses up to him.
Real quick, I want people to see that, the Romans ain't just whipping us. It's some back and forth whippings being done. You got people getting captured, running away, building up soldiers, and coming back and whooping folks and taking over stuff, and then getting into other battles, another battle. So it's just war after war and fight after fight.
Mm-hmm.
Even in chapters like 1 through 6, it's been wars. That's all we've been reading about, is fighting. Every chapter. So from this time span, Jerusalem is just compassed about with war. It's wars and rumors of wars. What's going on here?
That's right. That's right.
That's it. 7.
But now as Gabanius was marching to the war against the Parthians, he was hindered by Ptolemy, whom upon his return from Euphrates, he brought back into Egypt, making use of Hyrcanus and Antipater to provide everything that was necessary for this expedition. For Antipater furnished him with money and weapons and corn and auxiliaries. He also prevailed with the Jews that were there, and guarded the avenues at Pelusium to let them pass. But now upon Gabanius' absence, the other part of Syria was in motion, and Alexander, the son of Aristobulus, brought the Jews to revolt again. Accordingly, he got together a very great army and set about killing all the Romans that were in the country. Whereupon Gabanius was afraid, for he was come back already out of Egypt, and obliged to come back quickly by these tumults, and sent Antipater, who prevailed with some of the revolters, to be quiet. However, 30,000 still continued with Alexander, who was himself eager to fight also. Accordingly, Gabanius went out to fight when the Jews met him, and as the battle was fought near Mount Tabor, 10,000 of them were slain, and the rest of the multitude dispersed themselves and fled away. So Gabanius came to Jerusalem and settled the government as Antipater would have it. Thence he marched and fought and beat the Nabateans. As for Mithridates, Mithridates and Arsanius, who fled out of Parthian. What is it? Arsanes,
yeah.
Arsanes, who fled out of Parthian.
He's like an old black man.
I know, right?
People's name. Just gonna tell them what their name is.
Their name is Arsanes. I said it. There it is. Arsanes. Who fled out of Parthian. He sent them away privately, but gave it among the soldiers that had ran away. In the meantime, Crasius came as successor to Gabanius in Syria. He took away all the rest of the gold belonging to the temple in Jerusalem in order to furnish himself for the expedition against the Parthians. He also took away the 2,000 talents which Pompey had not touched. But when he had passed over Euphrates, he perished himself, and his army with him, concerning which affairs that is not proper time to speak more largely. So it says not even proper time to speak on, huh?
I hear about what Crabius did. Not Crassus, I said Crabius. It wore off on me now. Came as successor to Gabinius, took away all the rest of the gold belonging to the temple of Jerusalem. So they just robbing Jerusalem
to furnish that expedition.
Yeah, this ain't the final fall, man. This is prior to. It's got to be prior to.
Yeah, it sounded like this is when the Romans started coming in. They took over, and then after this war, then they settled. They must have had to come to a conclusion, and that's when Jerusalem was being ran by Romans, and they was paying taxes in Romans, and then the Shiite started come on the scene. You know what I mean?
Yeah. That's what I'm thinking, because at the final fall, there was no temple. They burned it down.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
So, but now Cassius after Cassius after Crassus, right? Crassus. Put a stop. Tomato. Put a stop.
They heathens. Who cares?
Heathen, but now these heathen after heathens now. Put a stop to Parthians who were marching in order to enter Syria. Cassius had fled into the province, and when he had taken possession of the same, he made a hasty march into Judea, and upon taking Tarashe, he carried 30,000 Jews into slavery. He also slew Pathalius. So these are the Roman people, right? Cassius had fled into the province, and when he had taken possession of the same, he made a hasty march into Judea, and upon his taking Tarchia, he carried 30,000 Jews into slavery. Okay, he got to be an enemy. He also slew Pathalius, who had supported the seditious followers of Aristobulus, and it was Antipater who advised him so to do. Now, this Antipater married a wife of an eminent family among Arabius, right? Arabisus. All right, I keep giving it a long I. Whose name was Cypros, right? And had 4 sons born to him by her. Phasaelus,
I wouldn't even know how to say that.
Phasaelus, and Herod, who was afterwards king, and besides these, Joseph and man, these people. And he had a daughter who, how you say it?
Pharaoh.
Okay, Pharaoh.
This Pharaoh.
All right, and he had a daughter whose name was Salome.
All right.
Salome, right? So now, as he made,
possibly Salome. Let's say Salome.
Okay. Now, as he made himself friend, y'all excuse me too as I read this, y'all. Y'all bear with me.
It's hard, man. Y'all don't know. Let's see y'all get up here and try to read publicly in front of folks. You know you don't say folks' name right.
I was gonna say this ain't no previous read, man. We y'all hearing it as we hearing it. This is we coming with it. It's my first time hearing this.
Now I have heard a couple of these names on audiobook. That's kind of why I kind of got some kind of a thing to how to say them or whatever. But I haven't personally said these names.
Okay. So we're gonna start back it now. Now, as he made himself friends among the men of power everywhere, by the kind offices he did them, and the hospitable manner that he treated them, so did he contract the greatest friendship with the king of Arabia by marrying his relation, insomuch that when he made war with Aristobulus, he sent and entrusted his children with him. So when Cassius has forced Alexander to come to terms and to be quiet, he returned to Euphrates in order to prevent the Parthians from repassing it, concerning which matter we shall speak elsewhere. Hey, I want to say real quick too, man. Speaking about this king of Arabia, his seat was seated in Patria, and that's the chief city of Edom. I just wanted to put that out there.
Petra.
That's the king seat of this king of Arabia. His seat and throne was in Petra, which is a city of Edom, Adum.
That's why they say Herod is half Edomite. That's not talking about that Herod. It's talking about his son.
Right.
That Herod's son because that Herod married the daughter of the Edomite king.
Cassius Clay.
So his son would have been half Edomite.
Mm-hmm.
Just wanted to throw it out there for context.
Right.
Because, some people know or have heard that Herod was half Edomite, but
Right.
they don't know why. So here is the correlation between what I just said about, that Petra and Edom is one and the same. And here you have King Herod marrying a Edomite princess, right? So his children, which his son was also called Herod. So that's the Herod that people are referring to when they speak of being an Edomite. I'm guessing from, what I could gather from that. So it all comes together. Let's continue. Chapter 9. Aristobulus is taken off by Pompey's friends, as is his son, Alexander, by Scipio. Antipater cultivates a friendship with Caesar after Pompey's death. He also performs great actions in that war, wherein he assisted Mithridates. Now, mind you, these wars ain't stopped, man. King after king, ruler after ruler, governor after governor, there is a war. Now, upon the flight of Pompey and of the Senate beyond the Ionian Sea, Caesar got Rome and the empire under his power and released Aristobulus from his bonds. He also committed 2 legions to him and sent him in haste into Syria. Now, mind you, Aristobulus is a Hebrew, right? Aristobulus is, I think he's the son of that woman that took power after her husband died.
Yeah. Yeah, he had 2 brothers. Yeah, remember because they had 2 brothers, but Aristobulus, I think, is he the one that lost his brother?
He killed his other brother, and then he died. And then when he died, his wife took over and sent her son, which was Aristobulus,
Okay.
sent him off somewhere. So it's just a long line, man. This thing is a saga for real. And like you really have to kind of be mindful of it, Might even have to read it a couple times to get the full context of the thing.
Yeah.
It's a lot. It's a lot. He also committed 2 legions to him and sent him in haste to Syria, as hoping that by his means he could easily conquer that country and the parts adjoining to Judea. But envy prevented any effect of Aristobulus' alacrity and the hopes of Caesar, for he was taken off by poison given him by those of Pompey's party, and for a long while he had not so much as a burial vouchsafed him in his own country, but his dead body lay above ground, preserved in honey, until it was sent to the Jews by Antony in order to be buried in the royal sepulchres. His son Alexander also was beheaded by Scipio at Antioch, and that by the command of Pompey, and upon an accusation laid against him before his tribunal for the mischiefs he had done to the Romans. But Ptolemy, the son of Menius, who was then ruler of Chalcis, one of them, under Libanus, took his brethren to him by sending his son Philippio for them to Ascalon, who took Antigonus as well as his sisters away from Aristobulus' wife. It's a lot of commas in this stuff. You see how these commas? That's one sentence. It started way up here at but. That's a mighty long sentence, people. That's all one sentence. That's crazy how they write, man. You there?
Yeah, I'm here. What you say? I'm here.
Oh no, okay. I'm just checking on you. Aristobulus' wife, and brought them to his father, and falling in love with the younger daughter, he married her. Hold on, let's start this over. Okay. But Ptolemy, the son of Mineus, who was then ruler of Chalcis under Libanus, took his brethren to him by sending his son Philippio for them to Ascalon, who took Antigonus as well as his sisters away from Aristobulus' wife and brought them to his father. And falling in love with the younger daughter, he married her, and was afterwards slain by his father on her account. For Ptolemy himself, after he had slain his son, married her. Damn! She must have been bad.
This dude done married his own daughter, man.
She must have been bad. Now listen though. Ptolemy sent his son, Mineus, okay? He sent her, took his brethren to him by sending his son, Philippus, who was then the ruler of Chalcis under Libanus. Took his brethren to him by sending his son Philippio for them to Ascalon. So Ptolemy sent Mineus. I don't know. It's just crazy. But anyway.
Oh, so his father killed him and took the wife, took the girl.
I know, but I'm trying to relate to who this girl was, right? Away from Aris. Okay. Aristobulus, or it's either Aristobulus or Antigonus. Okay. Aristobulus' wife and family was being held hostage, right? In Chalcis or whatever. Ptolemy sent his son, Philippio, right, to go get them, to go have them killed, right? But he fell in love with one of the daughters.
Antigonus, right? Antigonus is the one that fell in love with the daughter, right? No. Antigonus, okay.
Antigonus. Okay, no. Antigonus is, okay, him and his wife. No, Antigonus got the sisters, as well as his sisters, away from Aristobulus' wife. Okay, they went to get this group of people, right? Ptolemy sent his son to go get this group of people, to go and get Antigonus and his sisters.
Ptolemy did.
From Aristobulus' wife.
Ptolemy did. Yeah, Ptolemy did that.
He sent his son to go get these people.
Right.
When his son went to go get them, his son fell in love with the younger daughter, right? He married her.
Philippio.
Yes, and then Ptolemy, his daddy, killed him, and then he married her.
So his daddy killed Philippio and he took the girl.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm telling you, cold. Yeah, he said she must be bad.
Whose name was Alexandra, on the account of which marriage he took the greater care of her brother and sister. So when he married her, he said, well, I'm going to take care of your brother and your sister now. They was going to die. I was finna kill all y'all. But since I like you, I'm going to keep you. I'm going to keep them too.
Yeah, because I like you and I want you.
I'm going to get you. Now, after Pompey was dead, Antipater changed sides and cultivated a friendship with Caesar. And since Mithridates of Pergamus, with the forces he led against Egypt, was excluded from the avenues about Pelusium and was forced to stay at Essalon. He persuaded the Arabians among whom he had lived to assist him and came himself to him. At the end of 3,000 armed men, he also encouraged the men of power in Syria to come to his assistance, as also of the inhabitants of Libanus, Ptolemy, and Jamblichus. And another Ptolemy, so there's two Ptolemies apparently. We didn't know this. By which means These are cities. City called Libanus, city called Ptolemy, Jamblichus, and another Ptolemy. So there's two cities named Ptolemy. By which means the cities of that country came readily into this war, insomuch that Mithridates ventured now in dependence upon the additional strength that he had gotten by Antipater to march forward to Pelusium, and when they refused him a passage through it, he besieged the city, in the attack of which place Antipater principally signalized himself. For he brought down that part of the wall which was over against him, and leaped first over all into the city with the men that were about him. Okay, Antipater. Antipater's doing big things. Thus was Pelusium taken. But still, as they were marching on, those Egyptian Jews, whoa, that's a new term. Those Egyptian Jews.
Was they the Jews that just lived in Egypt? That's why they call them Egyptians.
That's what I'm thinking. Jews that lived in Egypt, that inhabited the country, called the country Onias, called the country of Onias, stopped them. Okay, we need to look up Onias on the Google at some point, just to kind of see what kind of artifacts could be there, what kind of stories they could speak of, because this is a town like a Goshen almost. It's a place in Egypt where Jews lived. Could be interesting, I don't know. Then did Antipater not only persuade them not to stop them, but to afford provisions for their army, on which account even the people about Memphis would not fight against them, but of their own accord joined Mithridates, whereupon he went round about Delta and fought the rest of the Egyptians at the place called the Jews' camp. Oh, the Jews' camp. Nay, when he was in danger in the battle with all his right wing, Antipater wheeled about and came along the bank of the river to him, for he had beaten those that opposed him as he had the left wing, after which success he fell upon those that pursued Mithridates and slew a great many of them. Okay, let's figure this out. This Jews' camp, who is these people? Whereupon he went round about the delta and fought the rest of the Egyptians at the place called the Jews' camp.
I know real quick, Onias is a name of a high priest that during the Second Temple period in Judaism, and then it said that this was a place that they named that place after this high priest, and it was a place where the Jews dwelt there in Egypt. It's the land of Onias in area in Ptolemaic Egypt, named after Onias the fourth, that was heavily settled by Jews. So that was the name of a high priest.
So you got that off of the internet?
Yeah, off Google just a while ago. Yeah.
Oh, see, now why ain't we heard about this place? Why don't people talk about this? See, it's crazy.
Now we know about it. We
heard it here, Mark 67 podcast.
Okay. Go to Egypt. Where Onias at?
After which success he fell upon those that pursued Mithridates and slew a great many of them, and pursued their remainder so far that he took their camp, while he lost no more than 80 of his own men, as Mithridates lost during the pursuit that was made after him about 800. He was also himself saved unexpectedly, and became an unreproachable witness to Caesar of the great actions of Antipater. Okay, so Antipater is with Caesar. Mithridates is apparently a Yahudim, a Jew that was in all these places. And Antipater came down and just crushed all this stuff. Antipater is like... Now, I don't know if Antipater is a Jew or not. He could be a Jew put in charge by Ptolemy. Because it's kind of hard to tell, man, because you got people that's working with these people, sometimes by force, because what I've learned is that the Romans like to take your wife and your kids and be like, we're going to hold on to them. You go out here and you fight. And if everything turn out cool, you can get your wife and your kids back. So I think that's what happened with him. But it's the same thing they do today. If you cross us, we're going to take your kids. We're going to take your wife. That's what they do. Whereupon Caesar encouraged Antipater to undertake other hazardous enterprises for him, and that by giving him great commendations and hopes of reward, in all which enterprises he readily exposed himself to many dangers and became a most courageous warrior, and had many wounds himself all over his body as demonstrations of his valor. And when Caesar had settled the affairs of Egypt and was returning to Syria again, he gave him the privilege of a Roman citizen. Yeah, that is he's a Hebrew. He's a Hebrew that's doing all this for Rome. We always been the best of the best in any country. We be the ones stand out. Like even in Japan, the greatest samurai they ever had, it was a black man. The great, you know what I'm saying? It's just crazy, man. Wherever we go, we kind of run stuff, but it's like we helping our enemies for real and serving them with all zeal and honor instead of serving the Most High Yah, man. And freedom from taxes, and rendered him an object of admiration. This is the price you get for selling your soul right here. This is what you get. You know, you get to be one of us now. You're a Roman citizen. You're free from taxes. You're a 501c3. But you know what come with that? You don't talk about us. You don't do nothing that's against us. This is the price for selling your soul, but you still got rules. You'll never be free when you sell out to these people. Because your selling out is bent upon them crushing you. Roman citizen, freedom from taxes, and rendered him an object of admiration by the honors and marks of friendship he bestowed upon him. That's what happened with these black celebrities. They give them these big old funerals and they, salt and desire it, and it's on every news channel. They doing live events when they die and all that. They become an object of admiration. But it's admiration to the slaves. On this account, it was that he also confirmed. Like I said, this stuff ain't never changed, man. This stuff ain't never changed. From Alexander, they did the same thing. They brought certain people from among the Jews and had them as the hierarchy of the people. Same thing with the Romans. Same thing with the British. Same thing with the Americans, man. This stuff don't change. On this account, it was that he also confirmed Hyrcanus as the high priest. Hyrcanus is really getting around, for real. Hyrcanus has been above reproach for a minute.
He really is getting around.
Right, read this and
this will be it.
This will be it.
Mm-hmm. Chapter 10. Caesar's make Antipater procurator. Are you sure?
Well, you could say that. That's a little bit more fancy.
Of Judea, as does Antipater, appoint Phasaelus. Help me out.
Shit.
Phasaelus to be governor of Jerusalem and Herod governor of Galilee. Okay, this that Herod of Galilee, right?
See, I told you it was before. Now we getting into Hamashiach's time.
All right. But there was some wars that happened before Rome even took place. I held the people in position where they held them in subjugation, where they had to pay taxes and everything. So this is putting the stuff together and how Rome took over the land of running it and even allowed. Maybe it's gonna get to the point where they allowed certain people of the people to run it, but they were still in subject to Rome. Right?
And this too, right?
Uh-huh.
The factions existed before the first fall. So you think they'd have learned at the second, like we need to come together, we need to be unified.
Right. Good point. Right.
But it got besieged again, and the same issues happened before. And you think we'd have learned, but we ain't learned, because you know why? It's the trickery of these heathens of taking one and promoting one to esteem. So then it'd be the one of esteem and influence among the people versus the one that's really zealous for the people. So the ones that's really zealous for the people get looked at as the bad guy.
Right.
But it's other people that's zealous who feel his heart and join with him. So then you got the zealous versus the
political ones that was put.
Political ones, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Same thing we have today. Like me and my brother, we talking about a lot of the stuff that's going on. You want to know who talking about us? The ones of esteem, the ones that got, high positions in the hearts and minds of the people. Politically, they politically high. Same thing, man. But we don't want to fight these people. We just want these people to do right.
Right.
You take your position, take your power, and do right by the people. Right. That's all we saying, man. Nobody wants your spy. Nobody want none of that. Just do right. We want what's best. We would that none be destroyed, but all be saved and come to the knowledge of the Most High Yah and His Son Yahushua Mashiach, man.
Hallelujah.
Righteousness. Hallelujah. Yeah, go ahead.
Governor Galilee, who in some time was called to answer for himself before the Sanhedrin, where he was acquitted, Sextius Caesar is treacherously killed by Basius as is succeeded by Marcus. About this time, it was that Antigonus and the son of Aristobulus came to Caesar and became, in a surprising manner, the occasion of Antipater's further advancement. For whereas he ought to have lamented that his father appeared to have been poisoned on account of his quarrels with Pompey, and to have complained of Scipio's barbarity towards his brother, and not to mix any invidious passion when he was suing for mercy. Besides those things, he came before Caesar and accused Hyrcanus and Antipater how they had driven him and his brethren entirely out of their native country, and had acted in a great manner of instances unjustly. In a great many instances unjustly and extravagantly with relations to their nation, and that as to the assistance that had sent him from Egypt, it was not done out of goodwill to him, but out of the fear they were in from former quarrels, and in order to gain pardon for the friendship to his enemy Pompey. Hereupon Antipater threw away his garments and showed the multitude of the wounds he had, and said that as to his goodwill to Caesar, he had no occasion to say a word, because his body cried aloud. Okay, so he let his marks speak for themselves. Though he had said nothing himself, that he wondered at Antigonus' boldness.
Antigonus.
I keep talking about Antigonus. I keep calling it. Okay, Antigonus' boldness. While he was himself no other than the son of an enemy of the Romans, to the Romans, and of a fugitive, and had it by inheritance from his father to be found of innovations, and had it from and had inheritance from his father to be fond of innovations and seditions, that he should undertake to accuse other men before the Roman governor, and endeavor to gain some advantages to himself, when he ought to be contented that he was suffered to live. For that the reason of his desire of the governing public affairs was not so much because he was in want of it, but because if he could once obtain the same, he might stir up sedition among the Jews, and use what he should gain from the Romans to the service of those that gave it to him. Okay, so it said, if he could once obtain the same, he might stir up sedition among the Jews, and use what he should gain from the Romans to the disservice of those that gave it. Oh, those was afraid. Okay.
Got into politics.
Yeah, and they was afraid that he might use what he learned from them to their disservice.
You're supposed to have been happy to be alive.
You
Go
doing too
somewhere and
much.
chill.
You doing too much, man. You supposed to be having your life. You doing too much. All right. When Caesar heard this, excuse me. When Caesar heard this, he declared Hyrcanus to be the most worthy of the high priesthood and gave leave to Antipater. Go ahead, Art.
This is where the problem started. Well, it actually been started, but for Hamashiach to come on the scene, you got to understand, kings didn't declare high priests. How was the high priest chosen in the old times?
By bloodline, it was bloodline, and it was also lots. I believe it was the what is it called, the Urim and Thummim. It like they cast lots to find out who was to be the high priest that year, right? I think they used the Urim and Thummim to make a decision of who would be in that stead.
Yeah, so now you go from bloodline and by what's believed to be Yah's divine choosing, right?
Right.
To kings choosing the high priest on political status for political reasons, personal reasons.
Right.
So then these same people, knowing that they have to please the king,
right,
are choosing subordinates to be under them to that same cause. So now everything is about supporting the state. Everything is about supporting the kingship instead of supporting Yah. So Hamashiach comes up doing a system like this.
Right.
Y'all not following after Yah. Y'all following after rules of man.
That's right.
Y'all about impressing and pleasing people.
Hallelujah. That's what's up. Look how you make them put it together like that. That's right.
Hallelujah.
Hallelujah. That's our chain. That's why we need these things like that. It put the story together, the history, the story, what took place, and why he came on when he came on the scene, why he was going against things he was going against.
Because it's not what y'all had set up.
Right.
You no longer have prophets that came from the right institution who was raised up in righteousness, taught righteousness. Now you got people more worried about politics than about righteousness. These people ain't gonna speak up and say the things that need to be said because they got obligations. That's not the Most High Yah. See, the prophets came from these kind of lineages that say, okay, it's all about Yah.
Right.
You know, and they taught their kids in the way, and all the things Y'all said to do. But now you got people that's just ceremonial. It's all political. Even the whole offering thing became political because it's like, okay, you got to keep the king happy and keep the people happy. The people only know, okay, we're supposed to be offering these sacrifices. So at 3:00, we need to see some sacrifices. So of course, at 3:00, you're going to do what you need to do. But at the same time, the king said, listen, I don't want too many people talking bad against. I don't want to hear the whole bunch of arguing against what the king do and all this. So you find ways to be that medium. And Hamashiach was like, nah, man, this is pure wickedness. You only doing stuff to look good on the outside.
Right.
When you say your outside of the cup is clean, your inside filthy.
You over at Jesse Jackson in it and Al Sharpton in it.
Yeah, basically.
Right.
To even now, Creflo Dollar,
TDJ.
TD Snakes. Mm-hmm. This is the same type of stuff. And what our people is deceived by is the 3:00 sacrifice.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, they doing the work. They doing the offerings. That's my priest. That's my high priest. Don't talk about my high priest, my moray. He doing the work. What you mean he doing the work? Mm-hmm. This man is a politician.
Mm-hmm.
All he doing is to please. He's not bringing about no righteousness. The Most High said there's a furnace of adversity that's promised to every man to purify him.
Mm-hmm.
his preachers, his leaders, supposed to bring about that furnace of affliction in his word to convict the man unto repentance. Everybody ain't doing right.
Mm-hmm.
You got to be cut. If you ain't being cut, then something wrong. Nobody cutting. Folks ain't cutting nobody. They ain't even using scripture, most of them.
Right.
They just talking, man. But anyway, go ahead.
Talking about blessed in the city. 3. When Caesar heard this, he declared Hyrcanus to be the most worthy of the high priesthood, and gave leave to Antipater to choose what authority he pleased. But he left the determination of such dignity to him that bestowed the dignity upon him. So he was constituted procurator of all Judea, and obtained leave, moreover, to rebuild those walls of his country that had been thrown down.
I think this is Herod, Herod's son.
Okay. Yeah. I think so too.
It's one.
I think so too, because it was introduced. Remember when we first started, it was introduced and talking about. I was saying, this might be the time of when Mashiach come up on the scene. So it could be. I'm just saying. We'll find out. I'm sure to make known of it. Thrown down. These honorary grants Caesar sent orders to have engraved in the Capitol, that they might stand therein as indications of his own justice and of the virtue of Antipater. But as soon as Antipater had conducted Caesar out of Syria, he returned to Judea, and the first thing he did was to rebuild that wall of his old country, Jerusalem, which Pompey had overthrown, and then to go over the country and to quiet the tumults that were therein, where he partly threatened and partly advised everyone, and told them that in case they would submit to Hyrcanus, they would live happily and peaceably and enjoy what they possessed, and that with universal peace and quietness, but that in case that they hearkened to such as had some frigid hopes by raising new troubles to get themselves some gain, they should then find him to be their Lord. So is that how he? I wonder, is that how he had them to be at peace, promising them that they can enjoy their own, that they can enjoy their partly threatening to advise everyone that told them if they submit to Hyrcanus, they would live happily and peaceably and enjoy what they possessed. I wonder, did he
he was placed as, okay, for one, here you have a man that's been validated by war, validated by, Caesar. He's stamped and approved.
Mm-hmm.
And here he is stamping and approved Hyrcanus, who is the high priest appointed by Caesar.
Mm-hmm.
Because you got the kingship and the priesthood. It's always a thing.
Mm-hmm.
You got politics and religion. The king is the, politician, ruler, whatever. And then you have the priesthood, which is the whole thing about religion. The same thing happens to this day. So here, these are the two highest offices in the land.
Mm-hmm.
You got Judah and Levi.
Mm-hmm.
So here you have, but these aren't, people chosen by Yah. These people chosen by Rome.
Come on.
So it took Antipater, Caesar couldn't have came and said, here's Hyrcanus, support him this month. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
It took Antipater to come say that.
Right. One looking like themselves. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Sellouts too, really.
Mm-hmm.
Both of them. So Antipater, who is stamped, turned around and stamped Hyrcanus and told him, listen, what's it? This is my high priest. With him, I'm well pleased. You know what I'm talking about? Listen.
Oh, wow.
That's basically what happened.
No, yeah, I know. I said, wow. That's real.
Yeah, right here.
All right.
You can start at, like I said, these be some long sentences, man.
I'm telling you.
Started, that was one whole sentence. 4 all the way to 3 is one sentence. No, all the way to and right here. Like all of this on up is one sentence. So you can't even start back in the middle because you stop right here at their Lord. So I don't know.
So
Start
okay.
over.
I start over, yeah. I start over. A 4, yeah. But as soon as Antipater had conducted Caesar out of Syria, he returned to Judea. And the first thing he did was to rebuild that wall of his own country, Jerusalem, which Pompey had overthrown. And then to go over the country and to quiet the tumults that were therein, where he partly threatened and partly advised everyone and told them that in case they would submit to Hyrcanus, they would live happily and peaceably and enjoy what they had possessed.
They was bucking. I missed that. They was bucking about Hyrcanus being the high priest.
Okay, yeah. So they was following. They're like, nah, man, y'all got nah. We ain't finna do that.
Who is this nigga?
Right. Y'all gonna put this dude to the high priest, man? No.
He advised everyone.
All right. So he partly advised everyone and told them that in case they would submit to Hyrcanus, they would live happily and peaceably and enjoy what they possess, and that with universal peace and quietness. But that in case they hearkened to such as had some frigid hopes by rising new troubles to get themselves some gain, they should then find him to be their Lord. Instead of their procurator, and find Hyrcanus to be a tyrant instead of a king, and both the Romans and Caesar to be their enemies instead of rulers, for they would not suffer him to be removed from the government, whom they had made their governor. And at that same time that he said this, he settled the affairs of the country by himself, because he saw that Hyrcanus was inactive and not fit to manage the affairs of the kingdom. So he constituted his eldest son, Phasaelus. How you say that? Phasaelus, governor of Jerusalem, and of parts about it, he also sent his next son, Herod. This is where Herod come in, right? Who was very young, with equal authority, into Galilee. There we go. Now, 5.
See, I told you it was either him or his son. So that could be seen. No, because this is the first Herod. My bad. So how does he become? Okay, so now Antipater. Okay, Antipater married the daughter of the Edomite, right?
Mm-hmm.
Of the king of
Patria.
Yeah. Right.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so his son, which would be half
Edomite,
Jew, half Edomite. Herod. All right, let's go.
All right. Now Herod was an active man, and soon found proper materials for his active spirit to work upon, and therefore he found that Hezekiah, the head of the robbers, ran over the neighboring parts of Syria with a great band of men. He caught him and slew him, and many more of the robbers with him, which exploit was chiefly grateful to the Syrians, insomuch that hymns were sung in Herod's commendations, both in the villages and in the cities, as having procured their quietness and having preserved that they possessed to them, on which occasion he became acquainted with Sextius Caesar, a kinsman of the great Caesar and president of Syria.
Real quick, you notice how these great men are having sons that come up and like take after them?
Following their daddy's footsteps. They taught
following in their father's footsteps, man. And they be almost equally as great, if not greater.
Right.
Like we lost that as a nation, that whole thing. Now we have a man who's a chef. He been chefing all his life. And his son, he don't want to be a chef. He want to be a teacher. He want to be a fireman. Because it's this whole thing of about freedom of choice. And, it's like some feminine shit for real. This whole thing about, hear me roar type of shit. I want to do my own thing.
You something else, man.
But children used to want to please their parents.
Mm-hmm.
Used to want to really come behind them and do what they parents want, whatever it takes to make them happy. And the best way to make your parents happy is to do what they say. Do what they'd have you to do.
Mm-hmm.
You know, today we so just it's just crazy, man. I'm sitting here and I'm reading this like different parts where it talks about men and their sons and their sons being in the same occupation as them and excelling and being great with it too. Not just regular, but great. Oh, yeah, go. Oh yeah, dog.
All right. President Syria. A just emulation of his glory of his esteemed actions excited Phasaelus also to imitate him. A just emulation of his esteemed actions excited Phasaelus also to imitate him. Accordingly, he procured the goodwill of the inhabitants of Jerusalem by his own management of the city affairs, and did not abuse his power in any disagreeable manner. When it came to pass that the nation paid Antipater the respects that were due only to a king, and the honors they all yielded him were equal to the honors due to an absolute lord. Yet did he not abate any part of that goodwill or fidelity which he owed to Hyrcanus. However, he found it impossible to escape envy in such his prosperity. For the esteem of these young men affected even Hyrcanus himself already privately, though he said nothing of it to anybody. But what he principally was grieved at was the great actions of Herod, and that so many messengers came one before another and informed him of the great reputation he got in all his undertakings. There were also many people in the royal palace itself who inflamed his envy at him, those, I mean, who were obstructed in their designs by prudence either of the young man or of Antipater. These men said that by committing the public affairs to the management of Antipater and of his son, he sat down with nothing but the bare name of a king. Dang, he sat down to nothing but a bare name of a king, so he had no honor, no esteem, nothing but the bare name of a king. Yeah, he's just a king. All right. With
now,
that,
I think they're trying to tell Caesar that Antipater's trying to take your spot. Like he want to be a king. Like that's all he talk about. That's all he, his every thought, his every action is to be a king. I could be wrong, but
the king without any of it says with the king without any of its authority. So
he said the name of a king without any of its authority in it. Okay, go ahead.
Mm-hmm. Set down the name of king without any of its authority, and they asked him how long he would so far mistake himself as to breed up kings against his own interests, for that they did not now conceal their government of affairs any longer, but were plainly lords of the nation, and had thrust him out of his authority. That this was the case when Herod slew so many men without his giving him any command to do it, either by word or mouth, or by his letter. And this is the contradiction to the law of the Jews, who therefore, in case he be not a king, but a private man, still ought to come to his trial and answer it to him and to the laws of this country, which do not permit anyone to be killed till he has been condemned in judgment. That was the laws of the country.
Or more witnesses.
Mm-hmm. Right. That was the law of the land. Now, Hyrcanus was by degrees inflamed with these discourses and at length could bear no longer, but he summoned Herod to take his trial. Accordingly, by his father's advice, and as soon as the affairs of Galilee would give him leave, he came up to Jerusalem. When he had first placed garrisons in Galilee, however, he came with a sufficient body of soldiers, so many indeed that he might not appear to have with him an army able to overthrow Hyrcanus' government, nor yet so few as to expose him to the insults of those that envied him. However, Sextius Caesar was in fear for the young man, lest he should be taken by his enemies and brought to punishment.
I'm trying to figure out, how does Hyrcanus have all this power? Now, is he a high priest or is he a king? And how is he summoning Herod to a trial? Okay,
Hyrcanus is a high priest, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, he was a high priest that was put in it stead by.
He has government. He has I mean, I guess he's been given like almost rulership status, kind of. He like a governor and a high priest.
Yeah.
Something, because he calling Herod the prince. He Prince Herod at this. Well, no, because Antipater's not quite a king yet, is he? Antipater's a governor.
Mm-hmm.
The governor over Judea, and Hyrcanus is high priest. That's from the previous chapter, but I'm wondering how Hyrcanus has the power to have a trial with Herod.
If Hyrcanus is the high priest, then the high priest is the ones basically the laws, because the king even subject to the priest, to the high priest, and the laws the high priest supposed to be, right? They like work together. You see what I'm saying? So it's like, if Hyrcanus is the high priest, then he, they got to go and stand trial before the high priest, right? Or the priest, or was it the king? But they didn't have kings at the time. They just had the high priest that was ruling, right?
Right. High priest and the governor who's appointed by Rome. That's why, like, you got certain instances where, like, Paul and Peter appealed to like a governor to hear the case. But the original little trial thing was had by the Jews. And then, they said, well, I want to speak to the governor. But Paul said, I want to go before Caesar.
Right.
Paul went way up the rank.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it's Caesar, then it's the governor, and then I want to say it's the king, because Caesar has the empire, right? Procurator has a region, and a king has a section, because I want to say that Herod was under Pilate. He was a procurator.
So yeah, he was under Caesar.
Right.
Right.
Number 2.
Mm-hmm.
Number 3 is Herod.
Okay.
And I'm trying to think, what's the office under Herod? It had to be the high priest, unless the high priest is over Herod in some kind of way.
Right. But I mean, because doing the empire and the government like that, right? It's all political. So king would be like a political figure. You get what I'm saying?
Right. Yeah.
So he's a representative of what they call today as the state.
Senator.
Yeah. So he's a representative of the state, and the high priest is representative of what people call, we don't say church, assembly, or that what people will call the religious practices or whatever. You know what I mean? Or that, right? In today's term, yeah, man, that's something to look into. I'm gonna look into that and get more into that so I can know more about the way that was set up and how that was, just for the sake of this this series of reading about Josephus and the different offices of people. Right. Okay.
Where are you at? On 7?
Okay, I started 7. Now Hyrcanus was by degrees inflamed with those discourses, and at length could bear no longer. But he summoned Herod to take his trial. Hyrcanus summoned Herod to take his trial. Hyrcanus, we know, is a high priest. He summoned Herod to take the trial. Accordingly, by his father's advice, and as soon as the affairs of Galilee would give him leave, he came up to Jerusalem, when he had first placed garrisons in Galilee. However, he came with a sufficient body of soldiers, so many indeed that he might not appear to have with him an army able to overthrow Hyrcanus' government. Now, yet so few as to expose him to the insults of those that envied him. However, Sextus Caesar was in fear for that young man, lest he should be taken by his enemies and brought to punishment. So He sent some to denounce expressly that Hyrcanus that he should acquit Herod of the capital charge against him, who acquitted him accordingly, as being otherwise inclined also to do so, for he loved Herod. So, but Herod, supposing that he had escaped punishment without the consent of the king, retired to Sextus, to Damascus, and got everything ready in order not to obey him if he should summon him again. Whereupon those that were evil disposed and told him that Herod was gone away in anger, and was prepared to make war upon him. And as the king believed what they said, he knew not what to do, since he saw his antagonist was stronger than he was himself. And now, since Herod was made general of Colysyria, and Samaria by Sextus Caesar, he was formidable, not only from the goodwill which the nation bore him, but by the power he himself had, insomuch that Hyrcanus fell into the utmost degree of terror, and expected he would presently march against him with his army. 9. Nor was he mistaken in the conjuncture he made, for Herod got his army conjecture. Nor was he mistaken in the conjecture he made, for Herod got his army together. Out of the anger he bare him for his threatening him with the accusation in a public court, and led it to Jerusalem, in order to throw Hyrcanus down from his kingdom. And this he had soon done, unless his father and brother had gone out together and broken the force of his fury, and this by exhorting him to carry his revenge no further than to threaten and affrighten, but to spare the king, under whom he had been advised to such a degree of power, and that he ought not.
Under whom he had been advanced.
Under whom, thank you, brother. Under whom he had been advanced to such a degree of power, and that he ought not to be so much provoked at his being tried, as to forget to be thankful that he was acquitted, nor so long to think upon what was a malicious, melancholy nature, as to be ungrateful for his deliverance. And if we ought to reckon that Yah is the arbitrator of success in war, an unjust case is of more disadvantage than an army can be of advantage, and that therefore he ought not to be entirely confident of success in a case where he is to fight against his king, his supporter, and one that had often been his benefactor, and that he never been severe to him any otherwise than as he had hearkened to evil counselors, and this no further than be bringing a shadow of injustice upon him. So Herod was prevailed upon by these arguments, and supposed that what he had already done was sufficient for his future hopes. So he thought, okay, and suppose that what he had already done was sufficient for his future hopes. So he's basically thinking that, his future is set, and that he had shown his power to the nation. In the meantime, there was a disturbance among the Romans about Apamia, and a civil war occasioned by the treacherous slaughter of Sextus Caesar by Cecilius Basius, which he perpetrated out of his goodwill to Pompey. He also took the authority over his forces, but as the rest of Caesar's commanders attacked Basius with their whole army in order to punish him for the murder of Caesar, Antipater also sent them assistance by his sons, both on account of him that was murdered and on account of that the Caesar who was still alive, both of which were their friends. And as this war grew to be of a considerable length, Marcus came out of Italy as successor to Sextius. Also, Marcus came out of Italy, so this is a person from Italy that succeeded Sextius. So Sextius was the Caesar at the time.
Yeah, who had been with Antipater and helping him and all that, helping Hyrcanus and all that. So now he didn't been dethroned, and it's a new ruler
coming from Italy.
So now politics is changing now. Yeah, man, this thing is real deep. And a lot of us, we don't understand that Israel was going through this. They was in the middle of this. They was the ones that, it was the apple of everybody's eye. It was the apple of Greece's eye. And then it had friendships with Egypt, friendships with Syria, all this stuff. It's like was very important to those, coming from the north. You got Italy and all this up north. So they coming down, and they're like, Jerusalem's a major player down south. Syria out east. Before I take over anybody, I got to take over these. So when all these wars is happening, they in the middle. And it's so it's deep, man. Like I say, it's much needed to understand these things and to understand, because we wouldn't have known that before Hamashiach came, there was wars going on.
Right.
We wouldn't have known the political climate he was born into with this whole thing about the high priest and all that being appointed and all this. We wouldn't have known.
Right.
So it's important to know these things.
Hallelujah.
And like I said, we still ain't even got into the deep part yet.
Right.
Wait until Titus and them come to take Jerusalem and all that. That's when it get deep. And mind you, they've now already lost tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands, Jews in these wars. Already.
Yeah.
So here you got these people, and then when Hamashiach come and him being, having prophecies about him, they're like, oh, so now we finna get rulership back.
Right.
Now we finna not be in the middle of everybody's wars. We finna be the head and not the tail finally.
Right.
Like, nah, not quite.
Right.
Not quite.
Not
you
quite.
still gotta get his ass whipping. The Most High God coming.
Yeah. It's coming. Got to get it.
It's coming.
Everything got to be fulfilled.
You got to eat some more of your children.
Yeah.
This temple got to come down. You got to be dispersed to the four corners.
That's right.
Before all this, you want the good without the bad. Thank you for
Don't work like that. Hey, that's good, man. I understand y'all, wow, man, for that, man. That's good, bro. You bringing that stuff together, putting it together like that. May the people like really receive these things, because some people probably look or hear about the Josephus and think like, how they judge a book by its cover or something like, oh man, it ain't got no significance in none. Yes, it do. Got a lot of significance to do with a lot of things to inform you about what transpired, what happened even before Mashiach's time, what happened in Mashiach's time, and even after when the fall of Jerusalem. You see what I'm saying? So these things are very important to know, because it's your history. And they say if you don't know your history, how people say you don't know your history, then you doomed to repeat it. Know your history, where you came from, know where you're going, and then you can, when you get into the prophecies, it'll start making sense. You see what I'm saying? Y'all will start giving you understanding about prophecies that's yet to come and why, what happened, what even happened. Like I brought out earlier, saying that these histories that we're about to get into and stuff like that will let you know that it will stop you from looking forward for something that's yet to come, thinking it's going to be something worse than what had transpired in regards of a nation being totally eradicated, or given a grieving room, totally eradicated, where they didn't even know who they were anymore. You see what I'm saying? Been destroyed. Go ahead, Doc.
What is going to be epic, though, because, we're going to talk about y'all's destruction on us is one thing.
Right.
But the destruction of this kingdom?
Right.
Is it the fourth?
Yeah, the fourth kingdom. Yeah. Fourth beast, Rome. Yeah.
The destruction of this fourth beast is going to be epic.
Oh, yeah.
The whole world going to look at that thing and say, man, is this this the one that had everybody caught up like this?
Mm-hmm.
It's the one that ruled nations? Look at them now. Look at them now. That's going to be epic. And then all of the children that refuse to turn back to y'all, they got an epic thing coming. But people been just been acting like the righteous going to be suffering and all that. I don't.
Nah.
The righteous always suffered by our own people.
Yeah.
Them was the ones, you know. But even now, right? We see how just, you know, me and my brother, we don't really like call names and really like address certain people, which we could. We very well could. But our ancestors did that. Our ancestors called names and went and like addressed kings to themselves. Even I was reading Jasher, how Abraham spoke straight to Nimrod and told him,
Sure did.
"You wicked. You causing all the people to be wicked by doing what you're doing." He said, "Repent and turn." You know, and this is where the real persecution came from. Not just some heathen just wanting to just take over and rule and all that. Because really the heathen just want you to submit. That's their main thing, is submitting. And if you think about the world today, most people submitted. Most people submitted to the beast already. They don't need no instruction for what? What Hasatan got to, you know,
destroy somebody he already got.
And you with him.
Right. Don't fight against somebody who already got cattle. We're going to fight against those that ain't, if that's the case.
And a lot of the people that think they with them, they not really with them. I mean, who think they on the righteous side, they not really on the righteous side, man. Because we see how it's this great falling away. It's more than a physical thing. Oh, I ain't gonna take the shot. But you be up under 20 other doctrines that's against the Most High.
Speak on that.
You know what I'm saying? So we got to analyze within and without, man. And it just helps that bringing forth something like this, what me and my brother's reading, it's going to be against some of the things you done seen, some of the things you done heard. And the thing is, you know, are you going to be political and go with the flow? Because, you know, you can't come to your, you know, assembly mates with this. You know, you can't bring the truth out. You're going to be persecuted for bringing out the truth. Oh, they talking about Jacob's trouble. Jacob's trouble been going on. You can't come say it been happening, because that ain't what your leader said. You can't take it to them. Because you might can take it to them, but as soon as you leave off, you notice people don't answer your calls no more. They're having private meetings behind your back.
Behind your back, right.
And before you know it, we don't think you need to come. You know,
right.
This is the times we live in, man, about real truth.
You got kicked out. Yeah.
Causing derisions, man. And, you know, you going to be brought before courts and before synagogues and tried. You're going to be, you know, heretic and a rebel rouser. You're going to have to be cut loose for truth.
Yeah.
You know why? Because the Most High told us the priests bear rule by their means, and the people love to have it so. You know, their means is the ceremonialisms they come with, that feel good nature, that let's go praise Yah. It sounds great, don't it? It sounds great. But you see, we just read you where these people was in the temple praising Yah and got slayed, and he allowed it.
Right.
Were none of them folks righteous? I don't believe so.
No,
all going to be well with the righteous.
All going to be well with the righteous. Right. But not so with the wicked. You know? And a wicked person is those that don't, let me say this again, I'm going to keep emphasizing it, that don't reverence Yahweh and keep his commandments, keep his instructions, keep his teachings, keep his doctrine. You know?
Even in, I don't know if it was Jasher or in, what's the other book?
Jubilee.
Jasher and,
yeah, man.
What's the other book, man? Jasher and not Enoch. It's another one.
What are you talking about?
The book, man, that like starts from the beginning.
At the beginning of creation?
Yeah.
Jubilee?
Jubilees.
Yeah.
Hallelujah. I don't know if it was Jasher and Jubilees, but it talks about when the flood came. Before the flood came, the righteous died throughout the earth, man. Enoch wasn't the only righteous man.
Right.
It was other righteous people, but the Most High caused them to pass away.
So they wouldn't have to suffer.
And they sleep, natural causes before the destruction came.
Right.
So they wouldn't have to be a part of the judgment of the wicked.
Right. Yeah.
Most High is true, man. His word is true, man. Everybody else is on some folly, but not y'all's word. And if he said all is well with the righteous, then that's exactly what he did.
That's
just
right.
Like even with when you hear about Stephen being killed, when you hear about the apostles, they wasn't tortured. They didn't feel what was happening to them.
Right.
The Most High secured them. Right. Where all was well with them. Even
that's
with
right.
the sons and all that. They didn't, cry out from pain and all that.
Right.
They was at peace. They had shalom. Because the Most High word can't be made void when he said all is well with the righteous.
That's right. They
met death with joy and shalom. That even sounds crazy to say. But when you read the story, they did. Because they said, man, is that all you got? Man, pulling out your fingernails, stretching your back, pulling your limbs, every bone in your body, breaking, cutting your stomach open. They said, that's all you got, wicked king?
It just looked bad. It looked bad, but they was in a certain a certain realm, a certain place where they was unbothered.
Right. And that's what we gotta, look for and look towards, that peace and that shalom that only Yah can bring, that regardless of what happened.
Right, that peace that surpasses all understanding. You hear that? The peace that surpasses all understanding. How can you understand somebody getting ripped open and cut open and they ain't even crying out in pain because they really ain't feeling, probably wouldn't even feeling no pain. They in a different realm. They just don't be afraid of them that can destroy the body, but fear him who can destroy both body and nefesh. So they nefesh was in a secure shalom place while their body getting mutilated or whatever, but they wasn't feeling that. They was in a place of peace that surpassed all understanding. Man, that's awesome, man.
And it was always as a testimony, man, for those that experienced it, for those that watched and that heard of it. It was to Yah's esteem that these things happen, man. Even Stephen's thing, even the apostles, it'd be reason for the righteous or anything happening to the righteous. It's for like a certain amount of understanding to be had for Yah's hand to be showed, man.
Hallelujah.
I know fear mongering tactics like these people trying to have Yah to believe. You know why? So you keep coming back, so you keep sowing ties, oh man, you are the man of Yah. You really, man, this man is terrifying you to death. This man is a terrorist. No, that's what terrorists do, though. They rule from terror, from fear. They say,
fear. That's how Satan ruled.
Man.
See, you supposed to be moving in the opposite of fear. The only thing you're supposed to fear is fear being disobedient to the Most High Yah. That's the only fear you should have. Reverence for him. See that? Reverence for him. We walk in Emunah, not by fear. That's the opposite of fear. Fear paralyzes you and keep you stuck. Emunah, you push forward no matter what you see. We don't live by sight. We live by Emunah. So this the thing, man. That right there even strengthened me. Like if it was time to battle, whatever, even in the physical realm, bro, I'm battling. You hear me? If y'all wanted that to happen like that, bro, I'm going for it. I don't care what's around me. I don't care what it looked like. I don't care if they got all these armies and helicopters and all that old stuff. Even the Most High Yah told his people back then when he told them to get up and take the land. He said, look, if you see them now numerous and all this, don't be afraid of them. Only remember what I did to Mitzrayim, right? So it's like you sitting here, you recognizing Yah's power. Man, we got more with us than they got with them. No matter if it looked horrifying. It was written somewhere where it was a brother. They was going to war, and the other one was afraid. He was like, man, he prayed that the Most High Yah opened up his eyes to see. And when he opened up his eyes, he seen all these people in fiery chariots. It was more with us than it was with them.
Mm-hmm.
Man, see, that's how we move in Emunah, man. Trusting Yah. That's how it's supposed to be, and that's what we going in, man. Hey, you got me all excited over here, man, by the word of Yah that was coming forth for you, man, and the way you put this stuff together. with this. I'm glad that Most High y'all put that on your heart to bring out the book of Josephus, this book that we in, man. I got to get into it. I'm gonna start getting playing it. You said you had it on the video book, right? The audio.
YouTube.
Yeah. I want to get into that and get more into that too myself. That's awesome. I toot out y'all for that, man. Hallelujah.
Like I said, man, it's only gonna get deeper, man. Like Josephus started the book by saying, man, listen, he said, excuse me, apologize. No, he said, I apologize he said, excuse me, because you got to understand what I'm writing to y'all is some of the worst stuff that ever happened. He said, these are my people that this stuff happened to. Excuse my writing. You got to understand this stuff is horrible. What happened? Right. So we ain't even got to the bad part yet. So all praises, I'm sorry y'all for not having it more consistently, but I be having a lot going on throughout the days. And I got podcasts I'm obligated to. Got to be a father, got to be a husband, got to be a brother, got to be a whole bunch of offices. I'm a therapist to my clients in my life sometime. I be ministering to them. It be crazy. I got a lot going on, man. So forgive your brother, but y'all willing, we gonna get this whole book to y'all. And, hopefully the people can be edified. And that's all we hope to do is to edify, to teach the sheep, man. And teach ourselves even, to strengthen ourselves, man. Because
yes, sir.
We have problems. We get weak. We got issues, But, I get joy from being of service.
Hallelujah.
People actually get something from out of my labels, man. That's what it's all about. So.
Should all y'all for that.
Well, yo, man. Pray us out of here, if you would.
Okay. Barakatah, Yahweh, Lahan, Malakahulam, Tudabah, Yahweh. Alpha, Yatu, your Kasad, endures forever. Tudabah, Yahweh. But we thank you. We thank you for this message. We thank you for revealing these things to us, for allowing us to have a willingness to read even this book of Josephus, to even get informed about the history that took place with our ancestors and what happened in the lands and how these things came about and what's going on, and even giving us the knowledge to know where we are even at today. Thank you for giving us your light. Thank you for knowledge, wisdom, understanding. Thank you for counsel, for might, for reverence for you, for a heart to do those things which you desire for us to do, and even a heart to even seek those things out so we may know what it is you desire for us to do, that we may do them. Father Yahweh, I thank you. I ask you that you will Baruch my brother, his family, Father Yahweh, to cause his nafash and being to prosper and to prosper in regards of his household and provide everything that he needs according to your riches and esteem in Mashiach Yahushua, and also those that have a desired heart to do those things which you please with, Father Yahweh. And I just want to thank you right now, Father, as I offer up the sacrifice of my lips, saying thank you, Yahweh, Sabaoth, in the name of the one you sent, Yahushua Mashiach's name. Hallelujah. Hallelujah.
Hallelujah. Hallelujah. Well, thank y'all for joining in, all those that are live and all those who will view this later on. It's a long process. These words and these names and everything, stick with us. Trust me, there is, it is not by accident that these things are being done and being brought out.
Right.
Bear with us, and till next time, man. Mark 6-7 podcast. Todai Rabah, Shabbat Shalom, 12 tribes.
One nation.
Hallelujah.